What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is a swimming pool. Let's fish that. Alright guys, so to be perfectly clear, there are no fish inside of the swimming pool. We will not be doing actual fishing. This is actually something that I thought of when I started my channel during the summer. I thought that the winter months fishing is going to die down, so I need to make extra content for the winter months. So I actually took some footage of my lures and how they look and swim through the water. There's actually quite a lot to be learned from this little footage. That is why I want to share it with you guys. Just do keep in mind, this is when I started the channel. I was not yet aware of the different techniques and ways in which the lures work. So in this footage, I only did some basic casting out and retrieving. In most of the footage, the little lures will be moving from left to right. However, there is some footage of them moving from deeper water to the shallow water, just to give a better idea of how they move. As well as some of the footage I needed to slow down, actually quite a lot. These little lures tended to move a lot faster than I thought they did. Normal slow retrieve, not anything fast, and they still moved rather quick. But I'm excited to share this footage with you guys as well. So the first little clip that I want to share with you guys, I want you to focus on the actual shadow that the line makes on top of the water. And as you move it, you can actually see the movement on top of the water. This is actually quite important. I used 10-pound fluorocarbon line. This line is virtually invisible inside of the water. However, it was still pretty strange to see that the line does make a shadow on top of the water. This is something quite important to remember for guys that fish clear water, reservoirs, lakes, stuff like that. If you have clear water and you're using something like fluorocarbon that's supposed to be invisible, the line is invisible underwater, but it does still make a shadow. That is why it's a good idea to cast it out there, wait a few seconds for the line to sink, to lessen the visibility of the shadows and movement, as that might scare away some fish. Alright, but to get to the little lures, the first one I want to do is a little Scrabble. Okay, so this Scrabble has a very nice wobble to it, but as you saw here in the water column where it's swimming, it doesn't have much action other than this little wobble. Might get some fish like that, but that's actually not how to fish a little Scrabble. Based on this footage, you can see that the Scrabble doesn't dive that deep. This one I think gets 4 or 5 feet. This shows actually that it is a good springtime lure to use when the fish are up shallow. If you fish this in about 4 or 5 feet worth of water, what's going to happen is this little fish is going to wobble around and it's going to hit a little rock or something, and it has a lot better movement and it wobbles around a lot more, bumping off stuff. That's a good way for the fish to actually hit this little lure, is when it hits off these little structures in the water. So I think this little Scrabble would be an excellent little lure to use during springtime. Now the next lure that I want to look at is a little lipless crank. The first time I used a little lipless crank was here in America. I got myself one of those little red-eye shads, threw it out into the water, and immediately fell in love with the action of this little lure and the way you can feel it on the rod and stuff like that. Totally love using a little lipless crank. But I was quite surprised to actually see the footage of how they swim underwater, because that was kind of a surprise to me. So let's quickly look at that. Okay, so clearly the little lipless crank, it has kind of a tight wobble to it. It's not as aggressive, which kind of indicates that it is a better lure to use during the winter months. You don't want a big moving round bait. You want something with a tight wobble. That is why I think the lipless crank is actually a very good a very good lure to use year round. Springtime, you kind of want it just above the grass that starts growing. Summertime, you can throw it out there and retrieve it as a fast moving bait. As well as in fall, it's a good thing to have to imitate little bait fish in the water. And I think in the winter you can also use it because of this tight little action that it has. You can use it as a kind of bouncing off the bottom type of thing, and it has a slow, tight move, so a good thing to use year round. So up next we have a little shallow diving jerkbait. So I would just like to point out that this is not the correct way to fish a little jerkbait, but at the time this was the only way I knew how to, with just doing a straight retrieve. You can see it has a rather big side to side action. So with this big side to side movement, doing a straight retrieve, you might actually catch fish during summer when they're a lot more active with these big swinging motions. However, the correct way to fish this would be to actually jerk it, where you give it pulls and you pause it, and pull, pull, pause, and it kind of suspends in the water, darts a bit, and suspends and darts again. This is actually a good way to fish it during winter months, and that is actually how it was designed to be fished during the colder months in cold water, to kind of let it move and sit in the water and move again and sit in the water, and that's when the fish will react to it. As during the winter months they are not chasing moving fish, they are looking for something that is a quick and easy meal, and something with a slow kind of dying motion seems to be a better thing for winter months. All right, so sticking to the kind of jerk baits, let's quickly have a look at a small little bass imitation jerk bait. With this one again, we can see there's wide movement. There's a good little thing to be using during spring, where it imitates other bass and the bigger bass might try and chase it away. It's also a good thing to use in the summer. Small little baby bass swimming around, some bigger fish might try and go for it. Okay, let's quickly look at a little blade bait. So this again, swimming through the water column, we can see that it is a side to side wobble. It's a side to side roll. It's not a crazy wobble in the water. It's just a basically roll. Again, this shows me that it is a good bait to be using during the winter months, where you have a tighter move of the lures and not a crazy big thing going on, but a tighter little move. And here we have another little jerkbait. Again, this one is not fished in the correct way, but we do get quite a good idea of the action of these little baits. This one again with a wide side to side action, meaning you can fish it in the summer. However, you're going to be using a jerk type of way to fish this during the winter. But we can get quite an idea of what these fish look like, how they act, or how these lures act in the water. This nice side to side action this one has. Yet again, not the way that it should be fished, but you can fish it like this, and you can actually catch fish using this technique as well. But again, jerkbait, you're supposed to be jerking it. Next, we have a little deep diver. Okay, so a little deep diver, diving rather deep. Still lots of action on this one. This is a good one to be using when the fish are moving up from the colder waters, meaning during spring, early spring, when they are only starting to move up. They're not yet in the shallow waters. This is a good thing to use, as well as during the winter months when they are in deep waters. Deep divers can get deep down to where the fish are. And here we just have a different type of deep diver. And this again gives us an idea of they dive deep to get down to where the fish are. Crazy, rather nice, smooth, wobbling action to try and imitate some dying bait fish or something down on the bottom. And that's where they shine. Next one I want to look at is a double jointed little crankbait. And this little one we can see has lots of action to it. This is something you would use a straight retrieve on, and the action of the lure itself is what draws in the fish. Yet again, a good thing to be using during spring and during summer. All right, and the last little one that I want to be looking at is a little diving minnow. Not quite sure how this one works. I think it's actually a topwater lure, but it dives just below the surface as you kind of jerk or pull it. So it's not a true top water, but it's also not a crankbait or something that goes below the surface. I think the idea is that it be in the top part of the water column. But being fished in a straight line, this one does have quite a nice little body roll to it. But like I said, I don't think that's how you should fish it. If you guys know how it's actually supposed to be fished, please do comment down below telling me, is it something that I'm supposed to just pop on top of the water, or is the idea that it dives down? Please let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, so there's a lot you can learn from watching your lures in the water. For instance, I've learned a couple of things of how to actually fish with some of the lures by watching them in the water. So if this is something you can do, I would recommend you throw your lures into a swimming pool and see how they look, how they act, how they swim. I still have a couple of clips from some other different types of lures, but that I'll bring you in the next video. For this, I think this is the one we're going to stick to for now, the little hard baits for this video. You guys should let me know down in the comments what you think of these videos. Like I said, this is something that I recorded a long time ago. If you actually think you want to see how these lures swim when fished correctly and stuff like that, let me know down in the comments. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. If it's the first video of mine you're seeing, consider hitting the subscribe button and have a look at some of my other videos on my channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.